Hi, I'm an autism mom, and I'm starting this channel to share what I've learned over the years of parenting both neurotypical and children who have autism. My kids are all adults now. My youngest is the one who was diagnosed with autism when he was 4 years old. I have a big family and parented for 35 plus years. So just to give you some background, I have 3 grandchildren now too, and oh, they're wonderful. When you get to this part of your life, believe me, you'll enjoy it. Okay, I really don't know how to start this. I'm all new to YouTubing, so gotta start somewhere, so I'm just gonna dive in. The initial diagnosis of autism, it took us till my son was 4 years old to have him officially diagnosed. I think nowadays that would probably be considered a late diagnosis, but this was back in the very early 2000s. So it's amazing how much things have changed even since then, for the better for the most part. How we missed the signs, I think, was because we had a large family. There was a lot going on. My son was pretty happy as a little one, and he didn't have to say much to get his needs met. So we didn't really think anything of it when he wasn't talking a lot. All my kids kind of, had their own benchmarks and ages for when they started crawling, when they started walking, when they started using full sentences. Everybody was so different. And honestly, I was so busy, and I didn't know a thing about autism, so I didn't even know to look for anything. It wasn't even talked about nearly as much as it is now. Early 2000s, it was definitely on the radar of most people, but I didn't know anything about it. So one thing I can tell you, if you have a child who's newly diagnosed, be prepared for a lot of well-meaning but uninformed advice. People seem to have opinions about autism and how you should raise your child if they have autism or any kind of special needs, behavioral issues. People always have opinions about that, it seems, even if they really know nothing about it or really have no experience of it. You can't apply some of the standard parenting advice to a child who has autism. Now, my son is on the more profound side of autism. Maybe if you have a very high functioning child, maybe you can go with some of the more standard parenting advice. I honestly don't know. I'm coming from the perspective of somebody whose child has profound autism. He can talk, but he doesn't talk much. He doesn't seem to choose to talk usually. And it's hard to understand him when he does speak. You kind of have to know him to know what he's saying and what he wants. He really enjoyed school for the most part when he'd be there, but it was hard to get him out the door. And my son currently is not living at home anymore. That's a long story, which I will get to in other videos. But he did enjoy school when he was in 2nd grade. Things started to go downhill, and the school would call me to pick him up frequently because he was having meltdowns. And legally, public school, they're not supposed to restrain anybody. I understand that. I have, in recent years, though, had an advocate tell me, if your child is in a public school, if that's where the town is placing him, then they really shouldn't be calling the parent to come pick him up. If they cannot meet his needs in that public school setting, he needs to be put in a more specialized setting. For us, it took a near tragedy for my son to finally be out of the public school setting. I was at a meeting with all his teachers. They were great. His teachers were great. And they were telling the administrator in this meeting, in front of me, they were telling the administrator, we can't give him what he needs. We can't teach him. He needs to go elsewhere. So finally, with this meeting, they agreed to send him for a 45-day evaluation. He went to an autism specialized school during the day, was driven there, came home at night, just like a regular school. At the end of that 45-day period, they were actually having a meeting. At the end of this period, our administrator from our town was meeting with the autism school team to see what they recommended. From what I understood at that time, our town district was still planning to return him back to public school with some accommodations, which would not have worked. I know when you have the teachers telling the administration, we can't teach him, that should be enough, but it's not. It's a fight to get your child into specialized out-of-district education. Be prepared for that too if your child winds up needing that. It's usually not done easily. And as I said, we had a near tragedy to get him into a specialized school. That day of their meeting, I was driving my son to an appointment in the city, and he'd fallen asleep in the back seat on the way. It was a long drive, and but when he woke up, we weren't at our appointment yet. We were on the highway in bumper-to-bumper traffic. He was about 8 years old then. And we're in the bumper-to-bumper, nice weather. You know, cold out, but it was nice. And he decided all of a sudden, to my great shock, to open his car door and jump out of the car. Thank God he jumped out on the shoulder side of the highway. We were on the far right side, thank goodness, because if we'd been in the middle of traffic, I don't know what I would have done. I shoved it into park, pulled over real fast, shoved it into park, and he ran onto the shoulder with the green grass, and I was able to catch up, and I caught him. Kind of had to tackle him because he was just, acting kind of wild at that point. He just woke up from a nap. The poor kid. It's like, where are we? I'm in the car. Why am I not at home? But I had to restrain him. And people driving by, of course, saw this, and thankfully, police were called very quickly. They arrived very quickly. And I got him back into the car safely, but once in the car, he was attacking me big time. It was very upsetting. I mean, again, I wasn't angry at him. I haven't been angry for being attacked, but you people who might be watching this who have family members who have autism, you already know what I'm talking about. But that is what it took. That's the point. That is what it came to for us to finally get him in a specialized school. It shouldn't have to come to something so life-threatening. And there's so many more things I want to say. I'm going to keep this first video short, but one thing I do want to say, if this is the only video of mine you ever see, please know that physical health problems are the cause of a tremendous amount of autistic so-called behavior. It's not just mental. Behavior is communication. A good friend of mine said that, and she's so right. A specialized autism psychiatric doctor, forgive my stumbling, he told me that 99 times out of 100, when a person with autism is having very violent behavior, turns out they're constipated and in a lot of pain. And that turned out to be the case with my son many times over the years. He'd even be having, sorry for TMI, but this is an autism channel, he'd be having bowel movements even on a daily basis, but could still be very backed up. So even if somebody's going, that doesn't mean everything's fine and dandy. How much are they going? You need to check that. Anyway, but if that's all you ever see on this channel, please know your loved one with autism likely has a lot of physical issues. Gastrointestinal, stomach disorders are very common. Food allergies, sensitivities, migraine headaches, sensitivity to light, to noise, crowds, even people talking around them too much can set them off. They get very easily overwhelmed. And especially for kids who aren't verbal or very low verbal, they can't really tell you, like, hey, please, I can't talk anymore. Or, hey, I've got a headache. You just a lot of times find out something's wrong by them exploding. So please understand, a lot of them, they can't help this. And a lot of these kids and adults too have ongoing health issues that must be addressed for their quality of life. You can throw psych meds at someone all day long for behavior, but if they're in tremendous pain of any kind, if they're feeling sick, maybe they just got vaccinated or something, and they're, you usually feel kind of for a day or so after a shot sometimes. They can't tell you, so you have to figure it out by their behavior. I was able to ask my son, do you have a headache? And I'd have to ask him more than once because his answer would change, or he might just repeat the last word you said. But you have to ask them or have some way for them to tell you. and hopefully schools, specialized education can help learn tactics for dealing with that. Okay, well, this has been a longer video than I planned. Thank you so much for watching this channel. If you know anyone that could benefit from it, please share it. Tell them to watch. I'm going to be posting more in the coming days. Thank you so much, and blessings to you on your parenting journey wherever you're at. Thanks for listening. Goodbye. See you soon.